Hello everyone, my name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute in Ardmore, Oklahoma. Welcome to Preston's Ponderings. Well, this is the second in a short series on John the Baptizer and his eschatological significance. I really believe, and I say this in my book, Who is This Babylon? And I say this in other of my writings, for instance, The Last Days Identified. I believe that John the Baptizer, other than Jesus and Paul, is the most important and yet by far the most ignored eschatological figure in the entire New Testament. It seems that people just see, well, here's John, okay, pops up for a little while, and he says, I'm preparing the way for the coming of Jesus. Okay, Jesus has come, I can die now. No. We must realize John was the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. And the coming of the Lord that John was preparing for as the voice was the coming of the Lord in judgment. Isaiah chapter 40. He was the messenger to prepare for the coming of the Lord to his temple in judgment. Malachi chapter 3. Now this is unequivocally true. Therefore, John was clearly an eschatological figure since he was preparing the people for the coming of the Lord in judgment. Now, I want to share with you just a few thoughts here about the incredible significance of John as Elijah. Jesus identified John as Elijah. Matthew chapter 11, verses 10 and following. Now here, let me give you a rundown very quickly of the dispensational, the premillennial view of Elijah. Okay? We are told in the dispensational view of things, we're going to have the rapture. It's going to take the church out of the world. Following the rapture, you have a 7-year tribulation period in which, according to the dispensational view, Elijah comes. Because Elijah will come before the great and the terrible day of the Lord. Malachi chapter 4, verses 5 and 6. So here's what's critical to realize. In the dispensational view of the things, Elijah cannot come until after the rapture. Rapture, Elijah. Hang on to that. In Matthew chapter 11, Jesus spoke of John the Baptizer. And he said, what did you go out into the desert to see? A reed shaken by the wind? What did you go out into the desert to see? A prophet? Verily I say unto you, that John is more than a prophet. Yea, of all of those who are born of women, none is greater than John the Baptizer. And yet I say unto you, that the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John the Baptizer. If you will receive it, he is Elijah who is to come. Now about this point, this is critical, our dispensational friends say, well, what Jesus was saying here was John was Elijah contingently, conditionally. That is, had the Jews accepted John, then he would have been the foretold, anticipated, and predicted Elijah. Oh, well, time out. Oh, let's just stop right here. How can somebody be somebody else contingently? Conditionally? Let's face it. Point number one, where does the Bible ever say, where does it ever suggest that Elijah was going to come contingently based upon Israel's acceptance or denial? There is no such prophecy, no such statement. You see, this whole idea of contingency is simply an invented theological doctrine. It finds no basis in Scripture whatsoever. But secondly, look at it like this, okay? In order for John to be Elijah even contingently, even conditionally, it demands, folks, listen to this, catch the power of this, in order for John to have been Elijah in any sense whatsoever, And to be so contingently, it was absolutely necessary, according to the dispensational view of things, that the rapture had to have already come. Let me say that again. For John to have been Elijah contingently, the rapture must have already taken place. In other words, look at it like this. Had the Jews accepted John, he would have been Elijah. That's what my dispensational friends say. But wait a minute. Had the Jews accepted John as Elijah, thus making John Elijah in fact and in truth, but the rapture had not already occurred, then the entire dispensational scheme falls totally apart. Houston, we have a problem. Jesus was not in fact saying that John was Elijah contingently. The little statement, let him who has ears to hear, believe this, accept this. Well, as N.T. Wright, R.T. France, and a host of other major scholars have noted, what Jesus was really saying by this statement was, listen to me, people, it takes spiritual discernment to realize who John is. You've got an expectation of who John is. You think, of who John was. You think that John was supposed to be, or Elijah was supposed to be, literal Elijah resurrected from the dead, ministering as he did in the flesh. No. John was Elijah in the spirit and power of Elijah, and it took spiritual discernment. Let him who has eyes to see, ears to hear, let him grasp this. John was not Elijah contingently. John was Elijah. But remember, to suggest that John was Elijah contingently, absolutely 100%, demands that the rapture had already happened. Well, that would mean, let me see, that John himself was left behind. No, John was not Elijah contingently at all. He was, in fact, Elijah. The implications of that for eschatology are incredible, in fact and in truth. The fact that John was Elijah falsifies all futurist eschatologies. We'll have to develop that in another segment. Thanks for joining me for Preston's Ponderings. We'll see you on the flip side.